Hi, I'm Ariana with Fresh Pair of Eyes. How are you guys?
Yeah, very good. Thanks.
Hi.
Thank you.
So, what attracted you guys to being a part of the show?
Just simply, I got sent a script, and it felt very original, and it was created by Nat Walter, Steve Burge, who essentially were writing up a parallel form of the sort of friendship they had remote friendship they had, largely conducted at night. And I thought it was very original, and then obviously it went on a bigger journey with Arabella and Phil, where we discovered all sorts of things and ways of expanding that out. And yeah, that's in a haiku version. That's the story. Yeah,
I would certainly say when I first read the script, I'd never come across a almost romantic comedy, as we call it, that sort of set so many barriers to challenges to itself. It's up at night, they never meet, they only talk remotely, and so okay, this is really interesting. How are you guys going to pull this off? So I thought it was really original, saying, okay, we're going to do one thing and then we're going to set a whole load of obstacles in the way of that and see how that plays out.
Yeah, and I was of the three of us, I was the last one to come into this process. So Paul developed it in the beginning, took it to Phil, and then they asked me to get involved in the pilot originally, and then the big thing. And I think it was an immediately clever script that was full of brilliantly crafted economical jokes, but actually a way of this kind of easy way of freewheeling, effortless sort of no holds barred chat between these two characters, and yet it puts them in this nighttime potentially strange world that felt like we could people it with a load of exciting other characters and it would look really different. So I think that was it for me.
Yeah, speaking of nighttime, do you think people are just more honest and open at night, or when they're sleep deprived? Like, what is it about night that is like the perfect time to have the show rather than being them isolated during the day?
It's a good question. I think it's really a more intimate time, nighttime, and I think you are more vulnerable at nighttime as well. I think you feel more vulnerable, but there's definitely a thing where I think it's in intimacy, because that sense that most of people are now sleeping, they've all switched off, and yet something else is still going on. It feels furtive even when it's completely honest and open. So I think that really adds to the mix.
And I think we have a kind of daytime persona and a nighttime persona. I think there's a sort of formality about the day sometimes. You're conforming to your work role or whatever it is, your parental role, and at night, I think that the mask can slip a bit, and you can sort of be more yourself. And I think that informs some of the kind of free flow conversation.
I think for Lisa particularly as well, the nighttime is like her stolen time, because she's a mum and her whole day is full of trying to cope on virtually no sleep, and then the night is the time that obviously is reinforcing her problem, and yet it is the time where she can let go a bit. And I think that informs her conversations with Danny. They have lives. They would never be talking to each other in this way if it wasn't in these kind of different hours of the nighttime where the tone is different.
For sure. I remember reading an article about how people who tend to stay up at night, and how you were mentioning stolen time, is that them staying up is kind of the act of rebellion against themselves. I probably should sleep and I would be in a better mood, but like, I'm going to get what I deserve, which is sleeping up.
Yeah, it's a nice way of looking at it.
Yeah.
So I'm from the States, and what I've noticed a difference between like British and US humor is that it's more smart, and smart's also a different adjective in the UK. But what would you say is kind of the difference between UK and United States humor?
We were talking about this earlier, funny enough, and I would say I don't think our humor is smarter than it is in the US. I mean, we see so many brilliant US, comedies, and they're smart and clever and slick. But we were talking about this earlier about the fact that if you're British, it's harder to say what you feel. We're not taught how to do that. So I think that definitely feeds into something that is an affair of the heart, and it's about people's feelings and how they're feeling, and it's about friendship, love, loneliness, all those things. And we just find it harder to talk about those in an openly. So I think that definitely feeds in. I think that is something that's uniquely British. So yeah.
It also adds another layer of funny when you're not saying what you mean. Adds a whole other layer of comedy. So maybe there is something kind of additional in the way we can find humor in ourselves, is the fact that the opportunity for misinterpretation is also great.
Yeah.
Speaking of Lisa and Danny's dynamic, do you think they're good for each other, or maybe not? Because there is a moment that Danny can fall asleep without Lisa, and maybe that he's kind of more at peace. Do you think they're right for each other or not? Just your opinion, without giving too much away.
That's a really good question.
Should we take it in turns?
I think they have insights into each other that the other people in their respective lives don't have. Lisa sees to the heart of what Danny's problem is in a way that other people don't, and he certainly doesn't about himself. And there is something that they share, which I think will probably be obvious to people from the first episode, is that the thing that clicks them is they have a shared sense of humor. They find wit and interest in looking at the world through a very similar lens. And I think that worldview, maybe that's a good thing in a partnership. Maybe that's one of the things that actually underpins loads of really good partnerships, is that sort of shared perspective, shared lens, and also, can you make each other laugh? And I think that's something that draws them together, makes them want to spend so much time together. And brilliant and kind and generous though Veggie is with Lisa, she doesn't have that with him. They're not on that wavelength. Maybe they don't need to be, but that is a way in which Danny and Lisa are good for each other.
I mean, on paper they are really disastrous together. I mean he is, by any standards, pretty dysfunctional and a loner, and not wanting to be, admittedly, and she has chosen a different path. But as Arabella says, humor is one way of looking at it. It's also just a shared way of viewing the world, which I think which is a connection. But that is something to explore in future series. We've left them declaring more than they've ever dared declare, but at the same time, would it work? Very interesting.
And when you guys can't fall asleep, what do you do to kind of try to fall asleep, or do you just surrender and you're up?
Great question. Yeah. We were talking about how many people are affected by insomnia. I at different times, I think everyone has not been able to sleep. People have advised me all sorts of things, meditation. I don't know the time or the patience to do that. Reading a book, maybe. They say don't look at a screen. Well, these guys do it all the whole time. I don't know is the answer. I don't think there's one way of doing it. It's interesting.
I find escapist images of things. I often kind of pick up a magazine that's got pictures of glorious houses around the world. Would it be like to live in that beach house? That would be
property
really
porn.
Lovely. And then I sort of imagine the sea, and would that be nice? It doesn't work necessarily, but that's something.
Yeah.
Well, your guys' libraries are definitely going to be in these escapes, because I'm loving them. But thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I'm so excited about the show, and I can't wait to talk to you guys about this in future projects.
Fantastic.
Thanks so much, Ariana.
Thanks, Ariana.
Great to talk to you.
Bye.
Awesome. Bye.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.